very good afternoon. And this is the first panel discussion of the day focused on strengthening India's Techade digital infrastructure as a core utility and digital empowerment of citizen. Uh, for next 45 minutes, we are going to discuss about as to how technology is becoming a core foundation for delivering government services, and as to how some of different government department, because most of our speaker comes from a different organization, they have a diverse case and use cases of technology implementation, and as to how they are actually building some of those platforms based on technology in order to reach out to the last mile, serving their own departments, some of the projects that they have been doing. And as you might have noticed that during the Red Fort address, Honorable Prime Minister says that this is India's decade. And we do have some of fundamental things in place, like we have a focus on 5G. There is focus on
business software
manufacturing.
that's hard to use, can make work feel pretty darn.
We have a focus on semiconductor manufacturing. There is also focus on optical fiber, taking optical fiber to the village level. And over the last 10 years, I believe the startups have also started playing very immense role. In areas like defense, there is effort being made to bring a kind of innovation that the country is looking at. And as earlier, one of my colleague during her welcome address mentioned about the open network for digital commerce that government has been working on. Those are very important programs that will enable us not only to build for the country, but build for the world. So without taking too much time, I'll begin this panel discussion with Dr. C.S. Kumar. Dr. Kumar, if you could share your views, especially given the fact that we are celebrating 75th year of our independence and focusing on the digital transformation journey that we have seen over the years. Would you like to share your views as to how do you look at the digital journey that we have achieved so far, and what are some of the key elements that we need to focus on, given that the acceleration part has accelerated, especially over the last 2.5 years during the pandemic?
Let me first thank you, Economic Times and Ujaley Sahab and his team for organizing this conference. And I think providing this platform for cross-learning, what is happening in various branches of the administration, also in the private sector, because each has to benefit and learn from each other. As already very rightly pointed out, still India society is basically rural. More than, I think, 50 or 60% people are still rural. So the governance of the rural areas improvement will directly impact the well-being of the whole nation. And that's why the Ministry of Panchayati Raj endeavor is to ensure the panchayats functioning. They are the constitutional bodies. They are the institutions of local self-governance. They have the constitutional mandate on various subjects to plan, to implement, and to deliver services. And in the digital age, it's important that they walk with the time and all the digital services, because now the aspirations of people, if the panchayats have to really establish their credibility, they have to stand to the aspirations of the people. And that's why we are working hard to see that the panchayats get the latest technology, right from the planning process for all monitoring, accounting purposes. And 2-3 parameters I'll just describe here without taking much of time. So we have around 2.6 lakh panchayats, and as Mohd already rightly pointed out, in last 6-7 years, all the panchayats are mostly, except a few here and there, are mostly online. Their planning process is completely online. You can go there and see the plans, and the payments and all the is also there, all on the PFS platform. And now all the transactions are happening online only. And now our the accounting purpose. So it's trying to do as much transparent, and so the people understand what the panchayats are doing. And but I think it's a journey, and it will take some more time.
No, absolutely, you're right, and some of the focus of the government has been actually to reach out to the last mile, especially at the grassroots level. I'll come to Mr. Aggarwal, to you, given the fact that in the finance space especially, we have digitized a lot of things, and we have GSTN data, we have data coming from different sources, and digital transformation of especially the world of the finance, especially in around, because as to how UPI has completely democratized, as to how people look at access to banking. What next we are observing, given the fact that we have huge set of data which we can actually uh, utilize in a way in order to create a better policy forward, and also utilize for efficiency, increasing the efficiency within the department. If you could share your view.
Two basic issues which are now extremely important for the uh, growth in the next stage. One is the breaking of data silos, and the second is the public-private partnerships in management of the data and also providing services to citizens. In fact, the model that we have built over a period of time is government agencies collecting the data, government agencies building databases, and also through those databases providing services to citizens. And these large databases are now a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information that is now with the government or with various government agencies. The challenge is twofold. The first challenge is within the government, either the center or the state or within the government agencies, are we ready to share that data amongst ourselves and to create systems where there is ease of doing business for our citizens and there is a provision of services which is more efficient? The other is, can government afford to remain the only service provider with these agencies, or can we build a system where private sector also joins hands and creates a model where services are delivered on a PPP model, or even on a model where the private sector or startups use the database and provide services to citizens? And how this model can be built, what can be the safeguards, what can be the methodologies, what are the SOPs that need to be built? That is the challenge that I see is the biggest challenge that we have. In a more conventional way, when we talk with an agency about the database that it owns or it has, there is huge amount of reluctance to share that data or to create a mechanism where that data can be useful for another agency. So I experienced that as CEO of PM Kisan when we had a database of farmers and we were trying to create an agri stack out of the database where the data exchange works both ways with the private sector as well as with the government agencies to provide services to farmers. Similarly, in the tax side, we have now database on the custom side under the IceGate mechanism. We have data on the GSTN side. We have data on the CBDT model through the PAN card. We have different numbers that are there for businesses. There's a GSTN number, there's a PAN number, there's a linkage with Aadhaar, there is a separate identity number for each database that we are further creating. So can we have a single identity number for all businesses? Can the data exchange between the tax agencies itself, between the direct taxes and indirect taxes, exchange of data happens where the compliance for the businesses and citizens comes down? If I file an income tax return, can that return also have data which also fulfills the requirement of the GST or the other tax compliances? So these are the challenges. To my mind, if we overcome these challenges and if the government is less reluctant to partner with private sector, maybe the next step, the next growth that can come can be phenomenal. I mean, the kind of work we can do is phenomenal. And this is the direction that we need to follow now.
No, you are absolutely right, given the fact that the data is coming from different sources and it is within the government organization. So we all are looking for an integrated platform where it could come and some meaningful dialogue could happen with the data. I'll go to Mr. Dubey. Mr. Dubey, you come from a civil aviation background right now. During the pandemic, we witnessed that there was a huge challenge, and that challenge was across all the industry, whether it is enterprise or public sector. And the word resiliency in a post-pandemic world as we are moving has become quite important. And most of the organizations are trying to put in place digital infrastructure which should be able to mitigate any kind of emergency challenges and enable you to go, continue your business plan on the go. Would you like to share your experience of the pandemic as to how you look at and some of the resiliency part that you are trying to address?
Thank you so much, and also congratulations to ET for creating this fantastic event. Regarding civil aviation, see, we are anywhere at the cutting edge of technology, and we are dealing with almost 4 lakh passengers per day. So that's a very sizable number. Even if 1% have a problem, we're talking about almost 4,000 people having a problem. For that, there's Air Seva, so you can always come on your phones, just type Air Seva and come and log a complaint in exactly 3 minutes, and it's tracked right at the minister's level. Coming back to pandemic, it was a tough time because all the flights were banned, and still in the remote corners, whether it's Agartala or Nagaland or to the island territories and Andaman, the farthest location you had to take your gloves and HDP gowns and RT-PCR test kits and all that. And I think it's government typically works in a method of being very nameless, faceless. We don't talk about these things. This is a platform, so maybe since you asked the question, we can talk about it. In 3 days flat, a Lifeline Udan portal was created. There were no flights. So how do you take a rubber gloves consignment from ICMR somewhere, bring it to Delhi, and then take it to Calcutta, and from there to Agartala? It's all done through a Lifeline Udan portal. It was done in 3 days over Saturday, Sunday, Monday, when the flights were banned, between NIC, Ministry of Civil Aviation, and a couple of other ministries. And then on one side, we had all the transporters, which is the Indigo, SpiceJet, etc., which were not flying. Okay, so they were doing special charter flights. There was Indian Air Force, Army, Navy, aviation wings of theirs, and Pawan Hans, the helicopters at the last mile, especially in the northeast and Leh Ladakh territories. So all that was done, and I don't want to drag too much because time is running out. So this was just one example. A portal was created in 3 days flat, and you'll also be surprised to hear that there are some 4-5 IT companies with whom we work in different parts of aviation. And we asked them, everybody said 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs. Okay, is the cost you have to pay. I mean, in government, you didn't even have time to go through a tender process. So we just did it over a weekend. 3 days flat, NIC, good old NIC, poorly paid coders and poorly paid employees in the Ministry of Civil Aviation. And till date, that portal has never halted or faulted or hung or something. So we had all the service providers, the airlines, the armed forces. And on the other side, we had all the states and the UTs. And if a consignment had to reach Cochin and a flight was going to Chennai, so then all the trucks from Kerala would come to Chennai and pick up the stuff and take it to different districts of Kerala. So all this logistics planning was done every day. We had a 9 a.m. and a 3 p.m. calls with some 15 or 16 ministries and all the resident commissioners of all the states and the transporters. So this is just one example. And just around that time, May, June of 2020, we also had the big locust problem. So now here, imagine a Rajasthani family which has meager means. It's completely dependent on the 2-acre or 3-acre fragmented landholding. 2 of his sons have already come back from Mumbai and Bangalore along with their families because they've lost their jobs. And then comes this drone swarm a mega swarm from Balochistan side. Typically, it happens once every 25 years. So after 93, in 2020, after 27 years, we had a mega swarm, and you'll be surprised. Again, we don't talk about these things. This swarm is as big as 20 kilometers width. Can you imagine? Not 20 meters, 20 kilometers. So when this mega swarm comes, it literally is almost like a cloud coming and covering you up. And these tiddi, as we call it, the locusts, they eat 150% of their body size. They multiply every 3 months. So if you don't kill the mother, she'll create some 150 to 200 daughters and sons who will again create more next generation of tiddis. And these locusts had reached, they reached Rajasthan and Gujarat and Maharashtra, and some are even noticed in north of Karnataka. And that's where the panic button was pushed. And again, the drone companies were all, I look after drones also, all drone companies were split all over the country. Overnight, permissions were given because spraying of pesticides by a drone was at that time not allowed. In exactly 48 hours, files were moved, permissions were given. Drones, helicopters, ground-based, because ground-based, helicopters, and drones, all three were required to be pushed at the same time. The drone companies were all split all over, somebody in Cochin, Nagpur, Guwahati, or somebody in Dehradun. And from there, the curfew passes were issued, and the consignments of the drone, the instructors, the pilots, the maintenance crews, all of those were taken to the 5 major districts, the Barmaids and the Jaisalmers of Rajasthan, and then somehow we could control that. Again, this is another story. And at that time, these people had no hotel or a dhaba to go to because the whole country in June of 2020 was locked down. So kudos to these youngsters, these young drone operators, the technicians, and the Innova drivers who went and helped us control because you need drones for pinpointed spraying, because a ground base cannot go into ravines and there are undulating land and desert where the trucks cannot go. And a helicopter is a wide area spraying. So somewhere you need, like an army, you need a tank and an assault rifle, but you also need your special forces or pinpointed snipers. So the drone played that role. I'll just stop here because time is running out. So I just thought I'll give these two examples during COVID times, how technology and the spirit of human being, innovation, and sir also spoke about de-silofying, cutting across silos between public and private, the collaboration. If you do all that, such two big issues of taking the rubber gloves to Agartala or Nagaland, or to kill the locusts coming from a friendly neighbor on the western side, all that was done successfully. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'll come back to you again. I'll go to Mr. Jain. Mr. Jain, you come from NIXI, and as other speakers have spoken, the fact that over the last 2.5 years, especially during the pandemic, we see a lot of people going digital and started using, and we do see a focus on, especially on .in adoption in the country, especially by MSMEs, and there is some element of Made in India kind of involved, given the fact that we are celebrating the 75th year of our independence. As to how do you look at the development of .in and the digital transformation of our MSMEs via internet exchange? Some of the new thing that you are doing, if you could share on that, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me and sharing my thoughts in this informed panel. Digital transformation has taken an accelerated view when Prime Minister inaugurated Digital India in 2015. But the progress of adoption was not very high. But let me tell you that we Indians are one of the best community to adopt new technologies. When COVID came, I think it impacted adversely on almost all industries. But we can say that the IT industry and internet industry was those industries which has actually gained from COVID-19. So domain is a digital identity to an organization or an individual. So it is very, very important. And most of the domains we started long back in 1995-96 was .com, .org, which is a generic domain which everybody knows. And then ICANN started delegating the country code top level domain, which are specific to a country. So India was able to get .in and .bharat. So we are having .bharat in 22 languages. .in has picked up tremendously because of two important things which I personally feel. Number one, Arogya Setu app, which actually saved most of us during COVID-19. And second is the digital education. Digital education has become, I must say that we were supposed to go on digital education, because otherwise the education to the children for 2 years would have been gone nil. And then in offices, we have seen that office has gone to online, and most of us were on various video conferences, which now we have adopted as part of our life. So I must tell you that the growth of .in before COVID was almost 5 to 7%, but during COVID we saw a growth of around 35 to 40%. And I'm very happy to inform that after adoption of .in during this COVID season, the growth still is maintained, and now we are growing at a rate of around 25 to 30% per year. You have touched another point as internet exchange. When we discussed about this, internet exchange is a platform where internet service providers who provide broadband to the community, the content delivery network like Google, Facebook, Netflix, those who supply content to the broadband community, and the data centers. They come together and exchange their data. I must tell you that we had 8 exchanges uh, in all over India right from 2003 to 2019. Virtually in 18 years, we added only 8 exchanges. During COVID time, because of the necessity which has come, we have decided to expand not only from the metro city but going to tier 2 and tier 3 city. I'm very happy to inform you that we have already grown from 8 exchanges to 38 exchanges as on date. And in celebrating 75 years of independence, we have decided to take this figure to 75. So basically, now NIXI with Government of India is planning to build up a data superhighway, and the digital information, whatever is available to metro citizens, we are trying to make it available to the villages. So the upcoming digital economy should be given uniformly to every citizen of this country. These are the goals which we are working. Thank you.
Wonderful. Now I'll go to Mr. Viswanath. Mr. Viswanath, you heard the speakers, Dr. C.S. Kumar focusing on as to how it is really important to go to the grassroots level. Mr. Aggarwal mentioned about the importance of having an integrated platform so that the department could speak to each other via data. Uh, Mr. Dubey talked about the kind of challenges that we faced during the pandemic and as to how, on the go within 3 days, we were able to actually continue our services. Given the fact that IBM is a technology giant, you work across the globe with public sector organization. I would like to understand from you what is your general assessment of some of the uh, implementation of technology that you're looking across the globe, especially the global technology leaders, those are adopting technology. What trend do you see? And as to how we can imbibe here in our ecosystem in order to build the resiliency that we all have been talking about.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the question and thanks for being with this esteemed panelists as well. But the first thing, let me answer the first part of the question is what do we learn from the rest of the globe as we experience a lot of other governments across the globe is I think we need to learn a lot from what we have done from an India perspective for primarily two reasons. First is the sheer scale what we have in India. And second is the speed at which we execute stuff, right? Classic example is the COVID app itself, where we have done about 600 odd crore vaccinations, almost about 200 crores in about few months as well. And we use leverage on the COVID app. Another form is the digital payments. By far, we are the largest in the world. Almost about 600 crore transactions we touched in the month of July, just about a month back. And if the pace goes on, we would see almost about transactions worth about $1 trillion coming in just a couple of months or probably a year or so, right? So the sheer scale and the speed at which we are accelerating on this so-called super accelerated highway of digital transformation is something where we learn a lot. Having said that, to answer to the other part of the question, there are five things which we have observed when we work with global countries and government leaders as well. First is, thanks to the pandemic, it is about our agility to prepare ourselves for the black swans which we are going to envisage. COVID and the pandemic was one such black swan which all of us were put out of gear for at least few months, right? We were not prepared for it. So that really opened a lot of eyes within a lot of government leaders across the globe where what if another black swan may not be a pandemic, could be a natural catastrophe, could be a climate change, could be an environmental disaster or whatsoever. How are we prepared to address and be agile and at the same time execute that at speed? So that's one big thing which every government across the globe are really looking at. The second piece to the point what the other speakers did mention is fundamentally reimagining the client or the citizen experience, right? It could be as simple as Mr. Dubey said in terms of the air portal or the air suvidha and so on and so forth, or it could be Panchayati Raj, or it could be anything else, but reimagining the citizen experience services. How are we making it more agile, more usable, more friendly, and delivery as well? It's as simple as ordering some stuff and you get delivered at the doorstep. It's can we get the services at the doorstep? So that's the second piece which most of the government leaders are really reimagining things. The third is the sustainability and climate control. That's pretty much on the top priority of every global government leader across the globe. And we are all going through all of that. Or probably we see that in the media and the press and everything. And today, with almost about 60% or more of the government leaders have sustainability and climate change, climate control on top of the agenda. How do we ensure that we get to a zero carbon footprint at the earliest? And it's just not at a country level, but it's going down deeper to the roots, to probably a household and an organization and a building and so on and so forth. So it's just like trickling down. And of course, the sum of the parts is equal to the whole. But that's the third element which is there. The fourth is we protect our territorial borders. When we advance ourselves on the super accelerated highway, borders are not defined anymore. We are talking about digital borders now. And digital borders are not just at the periphery, but they are at the edge, they are at data centers, they are even at the core. At every element, when we are going into the digital transformation, it's just not protecting and securing your core, but it's about securing and reinforcing cybersecurity at every digital element right up till the edge. And that becomes a very, very serious one. And last but not the least is how do we address the skills gap? Now, for doing all of this, you're going to embrace and you have to constantly innovate yourself. And you can't depend on legacy for you to advance in this space. If you have to advance at a rapid pace and be agile and nimble, the skills is a very important thing. The current skills or skills on a legacy would not really take you where you want. You might have the greatest of the ideas, you might have the greatest of the stuff, you might have the scale, but if you do not have the right skilled level workforce to deliver that, you wouldn't get those elements reaching to the citizens and population at large. So I would say these are the 5 broad things.
Right. 2 things that you mentioned. One is the customer experience part, which in a public sector we say gov experience, and the other is the capacity building. Both of those things, Dr. Tyagi, your organization have been focusing a lot. So I would like to you to re-emphasize on the part, especially during the pandemic, what we observed that the digital experience of people living in a different geography were slightly different. Maybe, and it all depend on the kind of connectivity and access to internet, access to application, access to devices that you had. Would you like to share your experience based on the fact that CSC is spread across rural areas? Some of the work that you have been doing is amazing. Could you share as to how we can bridge this gap of different digital experience based on access to connectivity, access to devices and all?
Thank you so much. And let me take from what has been already said. I think one of the things which was mentioned by IBM was very classic in the sense that what is to be evolved, what is the aspirations compared to what the world was looking for. I remember an incident of addressing college students and asked them, how many of you have gone to a government office for getting something for government? About 80% raised their hands. Then I asked them, how many of you would like to go second time to a government office? All of them shouted, no, sir. But that is the aspiration of the young generation. Young generation today needs everything to be delivered to their home. And that's what the point said. Today, cash on delivery, if it can happen in products, it can also happen in services. It's very simple. Today, people are willing to do it. It is actually happening. Like if you got a transport license or a driving license, it comes to your home. What a great feeling. What an excitement. Today, passport also come to your home. See, it get delivered to home. Everything possible with citizen need, by ration card, birth certificate, land record copies, or this. Give a choice to him that you can get it delivered to home. You can get delivered. Government today, technology is not a question. Technology, because the platforms already existing. If you think supply, freeze, water bottle, something of that nature, or TV, it is possible to design or use the same technology platform in delivering services. But that is transformational and it has to be done. Either today or tomorrow, we can't live without it. That is the aspirations of young generation. We need to fulfill that. What is the constraint? One of the constraint that exists in saying that from government, everything is delivered free. But this free delivery cannot place. You have to charge the citizen. Is the citizen today willing to pay? In my own personal opinion, citizen willing to pay. Every citizen today is willing to pay for if it is delivered to his home. At whatever cost you decide, and it has happened in few states, the examples are already there. They decide the pricing. Also, the price which you decide, like the Common Service Center do an assisted format of delivery. They do an assisted format where the citizen can access and they can deliver it. Unfortunately, the price which is decided with the government for delivery of the service is very notional. 10 rupees, 15 rupees, 20 rupees. I don't know how. I actually not find out a rationale of why they decide. Somebody will say, no, only you can't charge more than 25 rupees. In fact, in one case, they force us saying, you can't even charge a single paisa. I said, how can that happen? That boy is using his computer connectivity and you're creating an entrepreneur, an enterprise. See, that is the cost. If I do calculation on a cost of a citizen to access service from government is costing 400 rupees. You can look at that part of the work. So you can examine, we can discuss in detail, but I've examined all this. It costs between 300 to 500 rupees for a person to get government services delivered, though the government is doing free. If government is doing free, why not allow our common service center operator to do 100 rupees charge for application? In fact, in one case it is allowed. It's the passport application, when it's filled up through a common service center, we are allowed to charge 100 rupees, not exceeding 100. That's what the word is. He can do free also, whatever he wants to do it. But if we do 100, then average transaction which take place through a common, in a village, through a common service center for government will be about 5. That means he can generate 500 rupees in income. That means he generates about 15,000 rupees. Become a sustainable rural enterprise supported by government. But that has to be done. That notion, we have failed. It is our ability to convince the government functionary and try and asking them to try and enhance the price and enhance that has been not been very common sense. It will happen, but I think government has to realize that in any case, we are not charging the government. We are asking the citizen to have a choice. And fortunately, there is nothing which is exclusive to CSC. Citizen has a choice. He can still go to government office and take free. He can go to CSC and pay 100 rupees. But I think a rural, 500,000 of common service center become real good sustainable model for trying and helping citizen. They can also be used in order to do home delivery. And that's what happened. In fact, in one particular case, the home delivery for Jeevan Praman through post offices, actually they charge a higher amount if you do home delivery of Jeevan Praman. But they're charging without a government notification. They are charging with their own. That is not possible, but see, we need to relook at our alternative cost. What is the alternative cost? What is the alternative for a citizen? And try and be rational in enabling citizen to get an enterprise built up across. He is doing a great service. If a person in a village can run computer and connectivity through his own, within the constraints and try and deliver service, he must be remarkable. He must be an amazing guy. And inherently, these are very enterprising guys. Very enterprising fellows. They don't today talk about the constraints of what happens in rural India of delivering services, but they still build a sustainable rural enterprise. The two things which I want to mention before I just take two things of what has been done and what needs to be. One, of course, we just started what is called a CSC Bal Vidyalaya. With the new education policy, technology is an enabler and technology has to be used at the stage of the child. Urban areas you do fine, but rural areas from class 3, from 3 to 6 years, 3 years to 6 years of age, we are actually now using technology. We are saying school without a teacher. We don't call them teacher, we call them facilitator or educator. Because you make the child learn, but don't teach. Don't teach him. And our content's all digital, designed by IIT Mumbai, but we are doing now, we have done about 2,000 of these schools. And the phenomenal, we use Alexa and we use all kind of things with the ability of child to ask questions and answer significantly. He asks questions. And we also using 3D in order to try and create an excitement. When you want to see a tiger, he actually sees a tiger when he comes out of the tablet for him. This is CSC Balware. Our objective is to set up 6,001 in every block, and we should be able to close by end of the year. This 6,000 of that. The second, which I thought I will mention, is that the new future which are going to create for employment potential for India. That remains a challenge. And how do we create employment? How we create employment not in jobs, but we create self-employment. So how do you create a self-employment? So what we call it, we now call it the MBAs, multi-brand auto e-stores. That is how the whole concept is. So we have built multi-brand auto e-stores where We have a small room and everything is sell digital. Today we sell from cycle, e-cycle to a four-wheeler to a commercial vehicle of all brands across the country, all brands. And a phenomenal success story. If we can do, our objective is set up 10,000. If these 10,000 centers can sell 100 three-wheeler or four-wheeler to the community nearby, we create 1 million jobs. In this 1 million self-employed people, which is what is required, because logistic is a big issue and you need somebody to try and handle logistic at a rural India. Plus also potential for farm produce to be sent outside and built around. Our objective is to create 1 million jobs in rural India by doing multi-brand. We call them MBAs. I'm sure all the MBA will not get offended to because the word is called MBA. It's called multi-brand auto e-stores. But they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal. And good story is that he generates a lead for any vehicle. Our entrepreneur, of course, get money. And he then did, we have a loan facility created. So we do a loan, he still get money. And we have insurance facility created. So he get insurance. So in all the three transactions, it became sustainable for multi-brand stores. And today it's possible. See, in India, you can't have single brand, large mega stores if you want to get rural hinterland covered. You need probably to cover through multi-brand e-store and use electronics and use technology in order to try and empower community to try and take a choice, whatever. They want to buy this brand or this brand. As I said, we have almost all brand. Ashok Leyland, Mahindra, Tatas, or anything today want, or e-cycle or e-two-wheelers of all brands across the country are integrated in our system. And we are enabling this multi-brand auto store. MBAs, objective for us to create 10,000 MBAs across the country by end of the financial year. And then create 1 million jobs by doing three-wheeler. There's a demand for three-wheeler, electric three-wheelers. Then you also create charging stations. So you're creating a huge economic development for rural India for what future is going to be.
Right.
What future. And that is what our objective is. So thank you so much.
Right. Possibly you can also explore ONDC, which is coming, and become a part of the ONDC consortium. So that can also help you go online on the go. Now I'll go to Mr. Amit Lal. Mr. Lal, two of our speakers, Mr. Vishy and Dr. Tyagi, have been speaking about the fact that as to how the digital experience for the customer is important. So there are a lot of interaction is happening of the citizen with the government department for different e-governance services. And those experiences have improved over the years. Given the fact that your organization is in that particular space, would you like to share some of the work that you are doing and as to how we can make the public sector interaction with the citizen more hassle-free, completely agile and on the go?
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having me on this panel with such an experienced people and technological minds and all. And before I start, we work very closely with CSC. So sir may not be aware currently, but we are working. As sir was mentioning about the service delivery, which can actually happen and happening in the doorstep delivery and home delivery of ration card or driving license or anything for that matter. So what, as an organization, we are doing it, we always listen to the stories that departments or the organizations are going for the last mile connectivity, reaching out to the people. But what in the scenario when a citizen wants to reach out the department or the government for any matter? It can be the simplest of the thing that it can be a grievances, it can be a praise which they want to do, it can be anything. They just want to get connected. Then what is the way out of it? We don't find a very particular way. Different states, different departments have different things. If on every portal you would see a grievance page is there, but how much interactive it is, which is a single app or a portal which is as popular as any of the private app, right? We don't see any. Arogya Setu was a very famous app. It has its own reason. But in general day, we don't see that. So have we created anything? So as an organization, we have a platform wherein we create as in the portal also and the mobile app also, wherein citizens can be more connected and be more closer to the departments wherever they need to. And because so government has no customers, citizens are their customer. Government is doing everything to assist and service to the citizen, right? And every department wants to have a closer knit between the citizen. So we are creating a solution to bridge the gap and come them closer. Likewise, in the morning, Mr. Srinivas mentioned that they only have 25 lakh complaints or 25 lakh grievances across the country with a population of more than 130 CR. I won't believe that. There would be a lot of other people who would want to reach the government, but they are not able to do because they don't know where to go. They don't know actually. So I'll give you an example. We are talking to a lot of universities. Every university, we have 56 central universities across the country. On an average, they receive roughly 1100 queries per day. Per day is 1100. So you do the maths, 1100 into 22 working days, roughly 25,000 into 56 central universities makes you roughly 13 lakhs queries per year. That is only central university. You have state universities, you have other organizations, you have municipalities, you have 742 district administrations across the country. They would be receiving minimum 1,000 every day. That's huge number. The only thing it is not being captured, or people are tedious of going to the department every time. The first thing comes to the mind, I'll have to visit there for my ration card or Janam Praman Patra, Aay Praman Patra, whatever. People think chodo yaar nahi karna. Even if they need, they will go. But for the complaints, if they don't get an easy platform, they won't do it. If they don't do it, the government will never get to know that what they are wrong they are doing or what is missing in the services, because they are not getting feedback. So our entire solution is around the citizen experience, and so that is the solutioning part we are doing. The other part as an organization, what we are doing is we are talking to a lot of organizations like CSC. They have a reach across the country to every taluka, every block, every district. So we are working with them. We are working with the BT Startup Hub because they are also penetrated across the country. The idea is first to do the informatory thing. Tell departments that there is a solution which is already ready. You don't need to develop it from the scratch. We just need to tie hands. Costing can be a secondary thing. The first thing is acceptance of technology. Once that is there, we can penetrate to the any level. We are talking to universities, we are talking to municipalities, we are talking to district administrations, we are talking to the police departments, because these are the departments who interact with the citizen more and more, and they always want to interact more and more.
And one of the, when you speak to the public sector leaders, especially in terms of adopting technology from a private company, they will always come across with the question of cybersecurity as to how secure your platform are. So would you like to address that before I go to the next speaker?
So in terms of security, I must tell you that our entire model is on a SaaS model. It's a software as a delivery model. So that means it's being offered through one of the public cloud providers in the country. This public cloud provider is already registered with MITI and impaneled. So when they are already impaneled, that means MITI has already done their due diligence, given a certification that, okay, you are ready and you can operate in the country. For India customers, be it government, be it enterprise, we deliver everything from our data center, their data center, which is located in India. So we follow all those guidelines.
Right.
And even globally, we have all the security compliance certifications available.
Wonderful. So we are in the last leg of this panel discussion. We have 5 minutes and I can stretch it to the 8 minutes. So I'll request all of you to have your answers short. Dr. Kumar, would you like to add in the end, especially what should be our priority down the line in 1 year or 2 years, especially one important thing that we should focus as a government department in order to build the kind of discussion that we are having around the resiliency, last mile connectivity, taking government services to the grassroots level?
Obviously, the delivery of services at the doorstep, and I think many states are already doing. So many states have their own innovations. If you visit Kerala, their panchayats, there is a single window system. They receive all the applications on any service, and they prescribe timelines for this service: 20 days, 15 days, and fees. So Kerala is one example, and many states are innovating. So I think that is our next endeavor, to ensure people get service comfortably at their doorstep. That is our next endeavor. And number two, we are working with Mr. Dubey's ministry. We are mapping all the rural habitations by drone. So all the rural habitations digitized, and that will help us in spatial planning and making the things more digital.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Aggarwal, all the conversation that we are having, the government is a facilitator. It has to be implemented via one of the partners. Would you like to share what best we can do in terms of, because we have a green shoot of public-private partnership, which is doing amazing work, for example, Passport Seva, right? So can we replicate as to what we need to do to energize the PPP part?
In fact, the most disruptive thing that can happen and that can change how governance in this country is done is that rather than being vendors to the government agencies, if the various private sector technology players become actually people who have skin in the game and who are actually the service providers, and they become the front end with the new technology, with new ideas, and the government takes care of the government setup takes care of the back end, then there can be real transformation in the delivery of services and the citizen experience that is there. For example, in Department of Agriculture, we signed 10 PPP agreements for providing services to farmers through technology, and a lot of big players came in. Microsoft came in, AWS came in, Geo came in. There were 10 PPPs that were signed at that time. ITC had come in. Many others came in. The point is, when you are developing technology, like Freshworks have developed a technology, IBM has technology, there are other players, and the new ideas are coming up with startups. The original thinking is that we have to become a vendor. I mean, we develop a technology, we try to showcase that technology, and we want the public sector to become a buyer of that technology and use that in their platform for providing a service. But the disruption can happen when we develop a technology to become actually the service provider. We come up with an idea to the public sector agency, and with that direct initiative that you become our partner, we are going to deliver the service, we are going to provide the citizen experience on the basis of new technology, which is most unique, and we will also provide a service to you, to the public sector agency. So we act as an entrepreneur, we act as a front end, and you become our partner. If that kind of a model comes in the country, then that will be real transformation that can happen. I'll just give one example. In GSTN setup, we have the BIFA module. BIFA is the business intelligence and fraud analysis setup that we do. BIFA analysis is done by our AI system that we have built, and we have, of course, our technology partner which builds the technology for us. But if a partner comes in, he says that on success-based module, I am going to do BIFA for you on the data that you provide to me. And on that success, I get paid. So there is no obligation for the public authority to pay. Only on the success fee module, that module can work, and there can be a transformational change. New ideas can come in. And the basic thing that it's the government which is to think, it is the government setup which is to think and buy services or take services from vendors. This whole concept can change. We can have hackathons, we can have new technology providers and startups coming with new ideas, and those new ideas become the front end for the government. That can really be transformational so far as the new age or new tech age that we are looking at. That will be the future that can happen. Thank you.
Mr. Dubey, if you'd like to add your last word, especially around the key focus that we need to focus on down the line. Some of the key element that we need to focus in terms of building resilient digital infrastructure.
See, I believe time is already up, so I'll keep it very short. First of all, our vision has to be very clear. And I think we should go beyond the 5 or 10 trillion economy. We should start looking at beyond US. It sounds silly, but then, as I say, if the dreams are not silly, they're not dreams. They're just business plans here. We should look at 30 trillion, okay, as a target. And if that is the long-term vision, it needs a complete transformation of the way business is done, the public-private partnerships. Digital, of course, is the biggest force which will help us take there. All the issues and problems that we face about service delivery, and government will gradually become more of a facilitator than a doer. So we'll remain as an umpire and a facilitator, whereas the players, the batsmen and the bowlers will be from the private sector. And what should the industry do is 3 things: engage, engage, and engage. The more we engage, the better things become, and we can go on and on looking at sector after sector, reform after reform. As we say, reform, transform, perform, and inform. And all 4 things require digital. All 4 require the government and the industry to work together to take development to the grassroots level. Because unless we go to the grassroots level, the 30 trillion number will just remain a number. Thank you so much.
Mr. Viswanath, your quick word, especially on the fact that the Prime Minister spoke about the Techade that India is building. What should be our foundation? What are the key elements that we need to put in place to achieve that? If you could share your views on that.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I would broadly put it under four pillars. One is data. Second is bringing in efficiency. Third is security. And fourth is primarily reimagining how we operate ourselves out of the legacy. India is going to be the next data superpower. For all practical purposes, we would be the data superpower by now. right? And with all the distinguished speakers who spoke more about data as well, we have so much wealth of data and creating data because of the sheer scale. The time has come. How do we move from the needle from now to a data superpower where you get actionable insights and leverage the data between agencies, right? How can one help the other? Second is bringing in efficiencies. Efficiency is just not about re-engineering process and cutting in the red tapeism, but it's about building how intelligent automation you can build into your existing process. To the point what Mr. Tyagi also said is, if things can be delivered at doorstep, there are two different ways of doing it, right? How can you make that more intelligent, more automated, which enhances a very different citizen experience, right? So all this you tend to do to enhance the citizen experience. That's the fundamental objective. And last but not the least is, of course, security, right? Because as I said earlier, we are creating by the hour, by the day, more and more digital borders. And every single digital border, for me as an individual, this mobile is my digital border. But when we go to an organization, it's a sum total of all the mobiles and the data center and so on and so forth. So building a very strong security posture is very important.
Dr. Tyagi, 30 seconds to you, your last word.
Just one thing which need to be done and which probably will be done over a period of time, that out of 600,000 villages, as Mr. Viswanath mentioned, one of the concern is that if you are putting too much on digital, you also need to put some part of the digital security. So we actually have some idea of saying it, can we have one person in every village at cyber security ambassador who will try and support these people and try and help them to get addresses to concerns when they use digital technology. Otherwise, nobody is there to look after them. If we do it today, it will be far forward. We will probably achieve $30 billion. If we delay it, the process will get impediment into our further penetration of digital technology and tools. Thank you.
Mr. Jain, if you could share your views also, maybe a couple of points.
Thank you. The first priority which I also spoken is that digital empowerment should be inclusive. It should be given equally to every citizen, whether they are in village or in urban area. So for this, multilingual internet delivery is very important, because 88% of we Indians do not speak English, do not write English. So delivering internet in their own language without cutting across the language barrier is the priority which I personally feel. The second, which I think the whole world is concerned, is about the resilience. And like the Internet Governance Forum of United Nations has also kept a topic for this year discussion is internet resilience. So I think it is very, very important for we Indian, which is largely connected on internet, that we should start working very seriously on internet resilience. So,
right. Mr. Amit Lal, your last.
I believe whatever we spoke right now, that everything is possible, and to ensure that we achieve all those targets of 30 billion or whatever we have, we should explore that solutions around everything is available in the market. If not right now, somebody is already working somewhere. What we call it, the startup thing. So today, if we want a car, we simply go and buy it. We don't build it on our own, because building a car from us will take like ages, right? It's available. So why not to explore that thing? Lot of departments, ministry, at times start developing on their own, which kills a lot of time, right? They may be developing something wonderfully in the coming years, but considering that we need to move at a very fast pace right now, these solutions are available. Exploring the market, allow people, the startups culture, anyway MIT is promoting that thing, to come on a platform to showcase that what is there and how government departments can be benefited with it, right? So that's what it should be.
Absolutely, we have completely exhausted our time. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for sharing your views. I think you all spoke quite well, especially on as to why the digital is very important, why we should focus on the customer experience parts, cyber security, integrating data, also the growth that .in and .bharat has seen over the years, and also the grievances mechanism that we need to make more modern and innovative. So thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist, and thank you so much.